Episode 3 of the Geekdom101 podcast aired originally on August 29th, 2018, as I was joined by two guests and we discussed Ant Man the Wasp and what was going to happen going into Avengers Endgame. It's a fun look back at how the MCU was before Endgame when everything changed. So check out episode 3 of the Geekdom101 podcast. And welcome back to the Geekdom101 podcast. So, like I said, I never did a Ant Man and Wasp spoiler review. I did a non-spoiler review on World of Geekdom on YouTube, but I never did a spoiler review. And I want to talk about the movie because the more I think about this movie, the more I like it. And some of my friends have actually gone on a limb and said it's one of the top 5 best MCU movies. I don't know if it's that good, even though you could make the argument because it is a great film. And it really sucks that the movie is just not getting the amount of love that I think it should. Like, it's doing good, but it should be tracking at a higher rate, I think. That being said, though, I want to go ahead and talk spoilers for Ant Man and the Wasp. So if you haven't seen the movie, this is not the podcast for you. And I'm not alone. I'm going to do like a group review here. Now, I want to let everybody know, too, that we're recording this before San Diego Comic-Con, literally days before San Diego Comic-Con. So any news that should break from San Diego Comic-Con may impact what we say, even though I don't think it will. I'm going to mostly focus on the film, not so much the future, even though we will have to talk about the future because the mid-credit scene is really important. So let me introduce who I have here on the line to the Geekdom101 podcast. Please welcome some new voices. Neither one have been on any of my channels, so they're going to be making their debut here. And if they do well, then they can graduate to being on my channel at some point. This is like the D-League right here. No, I'm kidding. It's not the D-League. First, let me introduce from the great state of Minnesota, the coldest black man on earth, MrGohan9000.
It's the name is Mr. Gohan. Hey, dudes. One of my first times on Danny's channel. I've been on a couple of streams, but
this is not a channel, bro. This is a podcast.
I've been on Danny's streams a couple of times, but this is my first time being on an official podcast with him.
That's true, and Mayo has also been on. Speaking of which, Mayo's here, but he doesn't.
Hey.
Do I call you Mayo or MaroMedia, bro?
Call me Mayo, bro. Dude, everyone knows me as Mayo. Like, during Kamehacon, I had to change my Twitter handle to Mayo so people could find me.
Well, go ahead. First, Mr. Gohan9000, go ahead and plug whatever you want to plug so that people can find you. And hopefully after they hear the show, they can, look you up and talk to you about nerd stuff. So go ahead and plug whatever you want. The floor is yours.
Well, the Twitter's Mr. Gohan9000. That's the tag. That's the ad. And I think that's all I got to plug here. That's all I got.
Dude, go follow me on Twitter, dude. I tweet out
Sometimes
sometimes you'll see me take,
but it's really messed up. So
sometimes I'll take classic songs and make them ye old school, dude. That's on my Twitter though. Mayo, bro, you are all over social media. Plug your stuff.
You can find my YouTube at MaroMedia, where I do video essays and weekly anime reviews. And I'm probably going to be adding some more stuff to that soon, so stay around for that. And my Twitter is at Maroyasha, MaroYasha, and my Instagram is the same.
There you go, bro. Great plug. So let's talk about Ant Man and Wasp, all right? So, Mr. Gohan had wanted to talk about the movie. When I first saw the movie, I came to the chat with you guys, and I was like, yo, you got to go see this movie. Mayo, you weren't there for that, but I was not expecting it to be as good as it was. Now, I love Ant Man 1 to death. Really thought that movie's underrated. I love just, the perfect balance, I think, of comedy and, like, seriousness and emotion. Real family, really strong movie when it came to family, and I really like that. Paul Rudd is great. I mean, Evangeline Lilly. Love Michael Douglas, of course. I've been trying to get Gohan to watch The Game, which that movie Maria didn't like Menace. She didn't like Scarface, but The Game she'll like because everybody likes The Game. But anyways, the first Ant-Man was great. I think the second one's even better. Do y'all think Ant-Man and the Wasp is better than the first Ant-Man?
No.
Really? You think the first Ant-Man's better?
Yeah, I think the first Ant-Man's better.
I disagree.
I'd say the sequel's better.
Maybe it's because I haven't seen the sequel twice. Maybe that's why, but I think the original's better.
Well, I think the original is probably the most underrated of the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies. I really feel, like looking back on it, I feel like Spider-Man Homecoming was a lot of fun, but I think it actually, and this might give me some heat, but it doesn't really age that well. And I think Ant-Man 1 ages better because it was so creative and unique. And I think this movie took everything that Ant-Man 1 did and made it, and made it better. Gohan, what do you think?
I do believe that the sequel's better, but I do also agree with you that it is underrated because when I watched it for the first time, I thought it was a great movie, and then lots of people didn't even see it. Like, I just asked around, like, hey, have you ever seen this Ant-Man movie? Or a couple weeks ago, I asked, did you guys see the sequel? And people were like, everyone said this kind of crap, and we don't want to watch it. So I do believe both of them are really underrated, but especially the first one. It's just no one saw it.
What I liked about the movie is that it did what I think a lot of sequels should do, is that it took what was established in the first film, which was the quantum realm and kind of the story of Janet, and by the end of the movie, as a viewer, you're like, well, wait a minute. If Scott got out, then maybe Janet might actually could get out too. So it's like the movie's thinking, like you're thinking along with the movie. You're thinking along with Hank Pym. Yeah. And that became the plot of the second film. What'd you think about Michelle Pfeiffer being cast as the original Wasp?
I mean, we didn't really see much of her, so I can't really say anything about her performance. But for when she was on screen, she was pretty good.
I don't really have much to say about that, pretty much. I don't have much to say about it.
It'll definitely make wherever they go with the Ant-Man franchise next, it'll definitely make it more interesting, because you don't really see, like, two Wasps and two Ant-Mans on the screen at the same time, especially considering Janet has these powers now, so she'll probably be a hero. Possibly. So, it'll be interesting to see what they do.
But, I mean, they didn't really explain what the actual length of her powers are. She was able to, she touched Ghost and, like, sort of...
healed her.
Yeah, and healed her from
it looks
this,
like... It's something like quantum stabilization or something. Like, she can stabilize atoms.
But is there anything else that she can do with those powers?
Not that we know of. I mean, maybe they'll make it like she can shoot, like, the blast like the original Wasp could that way, maybe. I don't know what they're going to do with them, because they haven't really specified, like, what Ant-Man and the Wasp are going to be doing. And, like, you said the whole thing about San Diego Comic-Con. Marvel isn't going to Hall H. I don't even think they're doing anything at San Diego. So...
I heard they were going to... I mean, again, I don't want to talk much about it because people are going to hear this after... But after they reveal the freaking Captain Marvel trailer, isn't that what they're supposed to do?
Maybe, but it's not going to be at Hall H as far as we know. So I don't think we're getting that many big announcements unless it's just going to be purely on Twitter.
Well, we'll talk about that in a different... Yeah. I'm sure we'll talk about San Diego in a different podcast. I wanted to discuss also Walton Goggins, all right? I love Walton Goggins. He has quickly becoming one of my favorite new actors, even though he's not that new. I mean, he's been around since the 90s. He was in The Next Karate Kid and in one of the Major League sequels and The Bourne Identity. But really, what the movie that won him over for me was easily... he was in Django, but really Hateful Eight.
Oh, definitely.
He was amazing. And in this movie, he's so funny. Because Walton Goggins is the kind of guy who you can't fully take him seriously because he has that really goofy face. And he's trying to...
And he always has that accent.
Yeah, and he's trying to... That southern, like, hick, evil, ivory dealer accent. He's trying to sell, like... Pym's technology to, like, the black market and to get advantage of it. And I love the whole truth serum. I like how the movie pretty much made fun of, like, 80s and 70s television and comic book tropes with truth serum. Like, that's the shit that you see in, like, James Bond and, stuff like that. And I loved it. Like, man, I really love this movie. I love this fucking movie.
I liked what they were doing with that, but I felt it was one of the things that added to one of the personal problems I have with the movie, which is a villain problem.
Okay, let's talk about that. I want to actually ask you about... Because, okay, the movie was weird when it came to... I kind of see where you're going with it, even though I liked it. You had Ghost, who was a sympathetic villain who, at the end of the movie, becomes a good person. Cool powers. I mean, she was like the damn twins from The Matrix Reloaded. That's pretty much what she was, and they are supposed to be ghosts. She's the villain. Then you have, of course, Walton Goggins is also the villain. Then you got technically like the FBI. They're not really villains, but they're antagonists. What was your problem with the villains in this movie?
I personally felt like, okay, so the problem with the first Ant-Man with its villain is that its villain is kind of bland in a lot of ways. But then with this villain, there was just like too many, it felt like. It felt like there were so many storylines going on at once that when they intersected, it just felt kind of weird. Like when Goggins' character like stole the tech and Ant-Man has to chase him down, but then they have to like deal with Ghost at the same time. Like all this crazy stuff is happening. Like they are two very different like feeling stories tonally that when they touch, it's weird. Like Goggins' character is very comedic and stuff that when Ghost interacts with him and all that, it just feels odd. At least to me anyways. Like when those two stories started to mesh, it didn't feel like it was meshing as well as it could.
Gohan, what do you think about that? Because I think that's part of the reason why I liked it, because she was so serious and motivated to get her body healed. And Goggins just wants to use it for money, like more for greedy purposes. You know, she wants to survive. He wants to thrive.
I mean, like I said, it's one of my personal problems with it.
I liked that there was many villains to see the different perspective, because Goggins, as you know, the dealer, he just wanted to make money. And then Ghost, she was gonna die if she didn't have, you know, that quantum healing to help her out to live. And then seeing that chase, seeing that they're all going for the same thing, but it's all for different reasons. I like it.
I love that. Dude, that chase scene at the end of the film where all that shit happened, that was
awesome, bro.
What a great, like this, like, I gotta be real with you. Look, I love Deadpool 2. I had a good time watching it. I still think 1 is better. Ant Man and the Wasp's, like, chase scene killed that fucking movie, bro. It was like, I was comparing the two, like, you know, the street with the cars and everything.
And the quantum shit too, all at the same time. Oh my god,
it was so creative, bro. Like the fact that things were getting big and small, then you know Scott turns giant. Like, oh man, like I really love this movie. So let's talk about Ghost. You know, obviously the controversy. I talked about it in my non-spoiler review, but now we can talk more about it. The controversy was that Ghost was a girl in this version of the story, and they were saying that, well, when it comes to this character, it doesn't matter if it's a male or a female. It's still going to be the same, you know, it shouldn't matter. But, you know, I feel like, and I'm being honest with you, I said it in my non-spoiler, I think Ghost's backstory was way more interesting in this movie than in the comics. I've never been interested in Ghost in the comics. In the movie, they actually made her very interesting.
I thought what was interesting about Ghost was her relationship to Bill Foster.
We're going to get to that in a minute, but
yeah.
Did her being a woman change the way you view this character?
I'm gonna be honest, like, I'm a big comic book guy, you know I am, but I've never really cared for, like, a lot of Ant-Man stuff, and Ghost was nothing that really ever passed my radar that much.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I never thought she was that important of a character, but, or he in the comics, but I feel like...
She was a fine villain, though, for the movie.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, in the comics, Ghost appeared, you know, in some Iron Man issues and was kind of, you know, here and there, but was more of like a henchman, never really had that much attention. But in the movie, you know, I was wondering, how are they going to take this character that's essentially not even that interesting and eventually turn them into something interesting? And they did it. They did it, dude. Gohan, what do you think?
For me, since I haven't really read too much comics, and I really hate that I haven't, I can't really compare the original Ghosts. But for me, the backstory was really great. That, you know, it was just her and her dad trying to do that experiments with the quantum stuff, just like Hank did, and it messed up. She almost died, and then she sees her parents dead, and now she can't really be like, she can't like physically touch anybody, because every second of her life, her atoms disappear and come back and just you know, separate every second of her life. I really do like how they took that direction.
Now, the one thing I feel that was a detriment to the film, I didn't like her acting, dude. Hannah John Kamen, there's this weird, I talked about it in my non-spoiler, but I'll go more in depth now. There's this weird thing with her in the movie where she makes these weird facial expressions.
Yeah,
I know that,
with
like,
you.
Right, like when you go back and you watch like Age of Ultron, I noticed that, you know, Elizabeth Olsen portraying Scarlet Witch did something similar where she would make these weird kind of overacting faces, and I thought in this movie, I thought she was either too bland. Now, again, her backstory is interesting. Don't get me wrong, and she's a sympathetic character. I thought she was either too bland or she was trying too hard, and I didn't like that. I did not like that at all.
Like, she's a fine villain on paper, but when it came to, like, acting it out, it fell short in a lot of places.
So you agree with that she's wasn't that great?
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, there were moments where it was just, like, it felt stale and odd, and then others where it was just, like, campy overacting. Like, there were some in-between moments, but not all the time.
Now, what'd you think about Jimmy Woo, Randall Park? Because I was reading some comments from people saying that they felt like the film kind of made the FBI into a joke because, Jimmy Woo is, in the movie, he's pretty much like a comic relief character. That's what he is. He's trying to go after Scott. But here's the thing. I feel like in the Marvel universe, whether it be comics or whatever, the FBI kind of is a joke. What's the FBI going to do in a world filled with metahumans? What can they really do? And I just
quantum physics power. It's just
the thing with them is that Shield always kind of outranked them, and then Shield isn't there anymore, and they're kind of top dog again. But Shield was bigger than them, and we knew Shield in that universe, and now they're gone, and it's like, oh, the FBI has to deal with this stuff. Like, if Ant-Man was under house arrest, Shield would have probably been dealing with that, not the FBI. Because they know the powers he has and the people he knows, so they would have been like, oh, we got to keep a better watch on him. But the FBI was just like, we'll stick an ankle bracelet on him.
Did you think that he was a likable character? I mean, I thought he was fine for what he was. At
first, the joke kind of got stale by the end of the movie.
Yeah, and also he seemed like he was kind of a guy who's lacking confidence, which I think that works with these kind of movies. But
yeah.
He's a little too comedic, but I didn't hate it. I thought Randall Park did a good job. Gohan, what do you think?
I believe that he did the part for the comic relief, but I really wish that he was a little bit more serious, but there's only so much you can do.
What'd you think about, we're going to talk about Bill Foster in a minute. What'd you think about what they did with, Scott's friends?
I think they underutilized them.
Kurt. I think they did, but I didn't hate that because... Yeah. It's not really about them, and if this movie was really about Hank Pym, and that's what I love.
This movie wasn't a heist movie either. Those are more like heist characters. I did like the jokes they did with them though.
Right.
Like the Baba Yaga thing actually did have me chuckling out loud.
Yeah, the Baba Yaga thing. Yep.
That was
a Minnesota joke in there too, but I just laughed a little too hard because
Michael Pena as Lewis was awesome.
Yeah.
They're great at portraying the whole fish out of water thing, and they did that whole thing where he talks too much and did the whole voiceover,
and then with the truth serum, yeah.
The truth serum was hilarious.
Just went on tangents for all this shit, just crazy.
It's one of those things where I saw people complaining about them having a lesser role, but I feel like in the movie it fit because I feel like the first Ant-Man did have a lot of heart. I think this one has even more heart because the first Ant-Man, really focused on Hank Pym and his development as far as trusting Scott Lang and him kind of having his arc. This movie was like Hank Pym's this motivated husband who loves his wife, who wants to save her. Then you have his daughter who, Hope, who really wants to see her mother again. And you've got that kind of family dynamic. Meanwhile, on the other side of the spectrum, you've got Scott Lang and his daughter and that relationship where she wants to be his partner. She loves him. She knows he's a criminal, but his daughter adores him. And it's such every time they're on screen together, right? Paul Rudd and his daughter, Cassie, Abby Ryder. Every time they're on screen together, it's like magic. I actually believe that.
It was very heartwarming, bro. Very
dude. Yeah, I believe that that's her dad. They got me to believe it was her dad, and I love how he has to deal with this pain that he's going through every day because he can't really be the father he wants to be because he's not living in the same house, and that's painful, dude. But at the same time, I love how, he's struggling with that, but on the other side, we have this somewhat of a happy ending. We're not going to get to post-credits scene yet. We're going to talk about that later, where they do save Hope. And Hope finally, and then that scene where, not Hope, Janet. Then that scene where Janet and Hope reunite, I thought was great. Very good, feel-good movie. The movie makes you feel good. And then with the mid-credit scene, they rip your freaking heart out again.
Oh yeah, bro, that's fun.
Yeah, what was I gonna say? You know what I find interesting about the casting thing is, wasn't there that rumor going around for a while that they casted an adult version of her or a teenage version?
We're gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about that later because that's not a rumor. That's
that was a thing.
Supposedly a fact. Yeah.
But I liked his relationship with Cassie a lot in this movie. I felt there wasn't enough of it in the last movie. And I felt it was a good addition in this movie, definitely. And I mentioned earlier, just backtracking to the friends and stuff, I mentioned earlier how I didn't like when the villains meshed. The one scene where I did really enjoy it, though, was when they're all sitting there and they're doing the whole truth serum thing, and then Ghost just appears and they all start screaming. Because, they hadn't seen her the whole movie. They have no idea what she is, and she just appears. The Baba Yaga scene was great. It was a great setup. So.
No, I love
the balance of characters was really good though. Yeah, the balance of the characters, just Scott Lang's friends, Goggins, excuse me, for being the dealer and everything. I just
Sonny
felt like
Birch, bro.
Yeah,
Sonny Birch, yeah.
Sonny Birch, but it's just the balance of the characters in general for this movie, and then seeing Cassie whenever we thought everything was down, it just made you feel better. I just loved all of that.
She's like the motivating factor behind Scott. What were you saying, Mayo?
I was gonna say, like, with the utilization of characters, I think the utilization of characters in fight scenes was a lot better in the first Ant-Man than the second one, despite the fact of us having more characters to fight with in the new Ant-Man. I felt the first movie did fights a lot better with their characters.
I think
maybe just regular fights.
Regular fights, yes. Okay, I'm gonna say this. I think Ant-Man 1 may have better fight scenes, but I think Ant-Man 2 has better action sequences, like set pieces.
Yeah,
they use the quantum stuff to the fullest, though. Like those parts when she's like running on the knives and all that type of stuff.
Yeah, but that was kind of like the scene in the first one where he's running through the cars and stuff, like the fake model. No, the fake model and stuff, and then even like the train thing. Like I felt it utilized its smaller set pieces a lot better than Ant-Man and the Wasp. Ant-Man and the Wasp didn't have terrible fight scenes. But I think, like, if anything, the standout one is the one with Janet running through the kitchen, and then the others are kind of like, it's just them fighting Ghost at normal size.
Yeah, and that was the thing, is that I actually like that because, the scene with Janet in the kitchen, Hope, not Janet, it's Hope.
Did I say Janet?
Yeah, we get them confused. We get them confused because in the comic books, the original Ant-Man worked with the Avengers more so than this version where they kind of changed the storyline a little bit. So it's always going to be Hank Pym. Hank Pym created Ultron in the comics, and Ultron had like a love, an obsession with Michelle Pfeiffer. Not in the comics, with Janet, which I'm kind of upset they never did that storyline in the movies. But the scene with Hope in the kitchen was hilariously awesome, and that was pretty much the only time we saw something like that in the movie. What they did was they used a lot more of the giant powers, and I like that, and I like how they drive they shrink themselves and drive the little Matchbox cars. Like I love that touch. Hot Wheels, and you saw the Hot Wheels thing.
The chase scene is definitely good. The chase scenes were definitely good.
I've always wondered, does Hank Pym buy life-size cars and then put the Hot Wheels sticker on them, or does he take actual Hot Wheels cars like he buys them in a store, makes them bigger, and then adds real car parts to them and then shrinks them again? I've wondered about the backstory behind these cars here.
What would be cheaper is the thing.
I'd say
he's a scientist, so he, I don't know. What were you saying, Gohan?
I'd say he probably used the Hot Wheels if we're talking cheaper, because Hot Wheels don't really cost too much. But then the parts, though, I really don't know at that point. I don't know.
It's just I'm sitting there in the movie theater and I'm like, are these actual these are cars that actually drive, that have moving parts in them? They're actual vehicles, and
then the building too with the lab, they had to shrink that too, and oh my god, just so many questions.
If you think about it, your brain will just explode. There's just so much stuff that doesn't make sense. When they move the building around, nothing gets thrown around, despite the fact that not everything's bolted down.
Yeah, you're right about that. Things don't get bolted down. You would think that things inside of it would be kind of more messed up. And I also find it kind of weird how it would conveniently blow up in an area that had exactly enough room for it. That's just comic book logic. That we saw that kind of stuff in the old Super Friends cartoon. I don't hate it too much, because at the end of the day, these are comic book movies, and if they do stuff like that once in a while, I don't think it bothers me too much.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's talk about Bill Foster. So, in the comics, this is Goliath. Not really a major character, I would say. More so a side character. He's like the Falcon, and
he's more of a bigger player in Civil War, in the comic Civil War. That's
in the comic Civil War.
Yeah, that's where he really gets his moment, and that moment is death.
So we've got Lawrence Fishburne, playing. It's funny because Larry Fishburne's double dipping. The dude was, Perry Mason in the DC universe.
He still is.
Universe. I guess he still is if they keep going, and now he's coming in to play Bill Foster. Now, I've been a fan of Lawrence Fishburne many, many years. What did you think about... Okay, well, let me just say this. The Bill Foster character being introduced here is interesting because we know for a fact that Bill Foster, Lawrence Fishburne, is going to have a major role in Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel takes place in the 90s, so we're going to see more of that technology where they're going to make Larry Fishburne look younger, or they're going to have his son play him like they did in this movie with the alteration techniques. But What'd you think about the introduction of Bill Foster? Because here we have, another scientist being introduced into the MCU. We've already got Hank Pym and Janet. We've got Bruce. We've got Tony. We've got T'Challa's, sister. We've got now Bill Foster. Like, what'd you think about his introduction in the movie? Because they trick you in the movies. They make you think he's a villain for a long time. And then he actually does, like, some real cool stand-up shit. Like, no, you kidnapped... I love the part where he's like, she's trying to do the classic villain thing by kidnapping Scott's daughter. Yeah. And freaking Bill Foster's like, no, if you do that, fuck you.
I'm pull that shit, I can't help you.
Yeah, I liked him in this movie. I definitely enjoyed what they did with him.
The backstory was good with him and Ghost and everything, and I did really like that scene though when she's like, "I need to find a way to get the quantum stuff so I can heal myself and be a normal human being." And he was like, "You do pull that shit, I'll never help you again." And all his life, he was like, "I'm gonna find a way."
Yeah, I want to know what it is with like people that Hank used to work with and telling him that if he had done a better job, his wife wouldn't have died. Because that is the second time someone has said that to him in these movies.
It's also kind of a low blow, dude.
Yeah, it seems to be the one insult everyone has towards him. Like, it's the one thing that people used to knock him off his high horse, which I don't know if that says something about Hank or if that says something about the people around him, but they always go, maybe if you defended your wife the way you defend this, I don't know what it is with the people he used to know, but they must really not like him.
Well, they can't say that anymore because he went back in there and saved her.
Yeah.
And it was kind of cool. And I love how he went in there in that ship, and it was his fucking story. It was his story. It's almost like we have two Ant Man films. We've got the Scott Lang Ant Man, we've got the Hank Pym Ant Man, both having their own little story, and I like that a lot. I thought that was really cool. So about Bill Foster, do you think he's going to actually become Goliath? I don't think so. I think he's going to be Bill Foster. But what do you think his role is going to be in Captain Marvel? He's going to be in Captain Marvel, and he's in that movie.
Well, by then, because that's the 90s, I think at that point was Hank. Yeah, because what year
Hank was probably still in S.H.I.E.L.D. at the time. I would assume.
When did Tony Stark's dad die? I'm trying to remember what year that was in the MCU. But by the time
MCU, I don't remember. When Bucky killed him.
Yeah, by the time he was dead, Hank had left the
1992, right? Wasn't that Mission Parameter?
Yeah, he had left by the time that that Howard Stark was dead. Like he left a while before that. Because he quits in the first movie and Howard's still there. So, I don't know if he's going to be in the movie, but Bill Foster, since we know he's going to be in the movie, is probably going to do something. They might try and mess around with the quantum technology. Who knows? But
I'm just wondering, maybe they're going to use that to give Carol Danvers the powers. I mean, she's Kree technology. Maybe, I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting. I mean, I don't know if you watched the newest season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but they definitely do tap into the Kree and the S.H.I.E.L.D. and the Hydra stuff, and I don't know if some of that's going to come to play in that movie, but it'll definitely be interesting to see. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if we see Sitwell in the movie, but, that's a whole nother podcast topic.
Yeah, I don't know. I know that Phil Coulson's going to be in the movie.
Yeah.
Clark Gregg's going to be younger. Jude Law is Mar-Vell, which I'm not going to lie, that's freaking cool that they actually put Mar-Vell in there. And Ben Mendelsohn's in the movie, bro. Our boy director Krennic. Huh?
Who's he playing? Do we know?
I don't know. Hasn't been revealed yet.
Wow.
I know that Ronan the Accused is still going to be Lee Pace, who played him in the Guardians of the Galaxy 1 movie. He'll survive this movie, obviously, because he dies in that one. So
you don't know that.
Spoiler if you haven't seen that. So, Gohan, any thoughts on Bill Foster's character before we move
on? Any other? Nothing really, no.
All right. Let's talk about the quantum realm and that whole thing. So,
I love that shit.
Yeah, talk about it then.
Talk about a trip.
I mean, for me, since I like science and stuff, seeing how they used all the quantum stuff from the beginning to end, just seeing how the first Ant Man and the Wasp, when they were trying to destroy that missile, to recap why they're even doing this in the first place, trying to find out. Then you see Paul Rudd when he was Ant Man in the first movie, being in the quantum realm. That was some really just trippy shit there. And then you see that they finally find a way to go back. And then you see that the only way that they can do it is, make that quantum tunneling, the tunnel stuff.
That portal, right?
The portal, excuse me. And then you see that the other antagonist Ghost and the dealer both want to have this because the dealer's going to use it for whatever, to find energy in there, and she needs it for healing. And I really just liked how they brought that all together. And then we really loved how the vehicles got bigger and smaller, and then Paul Rudd became bigger again, and then he just kind of fell asleep in the middle and stuff like that. I just really loved how they used the quantum mechanics in this movie. It was really great.
Yeah.
Well, specifically about the quantum realm, I did like how they kept talking about how dangerous it is. And, you know, let's talk about the mid-credit scene, because I expected this. I didn't think they were going to do it with all the characters they did it with, but
And I didn't think they were going to do it the way they did it. I didn't think that's how it was going to go down.
No, me neither, but I think it actually makes sense. So, and I did a video about this very thing. So we find out that even though Janet did have the healing ability to heal Ghost, it's still not enough. And they have to go back in the quantum realm to get like that plasma, right? Or whatever.
Healing
and so
energy
they have,
or something they called it.
Yeah, the healing energy or something. So he's in there. You know, Scott's in there in the mid-credit scene, and you know the whole family's back together again. You know, Hank and Janet and Hope. He's inside trying to help out. And then the snap happens when he's inside. And again, I had a feeling that they were gonna have like I thought going into the film that the only one that would disappear would be Hope. I thought it would end up being Hank, Janet, and Scott as like the ones that didn't get snapped. But no, Scott's the only one who survived. And the question now is, did he survive because being in the quantum realm where there is no space-time protect him from the Infinity Stone or the Infinity Gauntlet, or was it just by chance?
I think it was by chance because, like half the heroes also survived the snap. Like it was just it was just at random, mainly. I mean, my thing with it was my whole thing with this scene is that like they were very unconcerned with the world coming to an end around them. I know for like, or not know for a fact, but like I feel like that they would not have just stood around trying to get that energy when there was a battle happening in New York and then in Wakanda. Like they would not have just sat around. Like that's what that scene like was for me. Like it didn't make sense character wise, but it's like whatever, you know.
Go on.
Yeah, because I mean, if there is a war happening so big with Thanos and stuff like that, I wouldn't want to see them be in there. But as Mayo was saying, it does look kind of random why they would just be sitting around getting ghosts some healing.
Like,
I figure, maybe they, but I figure maybe they're, I don't know, like maybe something. I'm just again, this is all headcanon. I was thinking that maybe like they could have thrown in a scene where they're like, okay, we know that the Avengers are fighting in Wakanda right now, even though I don't think the whole world knew about that fight, but the world certainly knew about what happened in the city when, you know, at the beginning of Avengers, when you have like Tony and Doctor Strange and Spider-Man fighting the children of Thanos in the city, you know, Ebony Maw.
Yeah.
Like that had to make the news.
And they saw them go into space. Like they saw them go into space. Ant-Man would have been like, oh, the Avengers might need me. I gotta go. Like.
Yeah, that's right. So I figure maybe they could be like, all right, well, let's help out Ghost first. I agree with you. It didn't bother me that much because it could be that family is so stuck on helping Ghost they don't even pay attention to the news. That's all I can think of, because we don't even know how much time actually took place in Avengers Infinity War. Was that 1 day? Was that 3 days? Like,
I think it was like a day and a half. Like it wasn't long. It was like a day and a half or two.
Didn't know anything. So let's talk about the future a little bit. So the big theory here, the big theory here going forward is that because Scott was stuck in the quantum realm, that when he comes out of the quantum realm, it's going to be in the future. Not like when he eventually escapes, and we don't know how he's going to escape, it'll be in the future. And that's why we have leaked set photos of Robert Downey with like gray hair. He looks older, and that's why they cast his daughter as being like a 16-year-old. So it would make sense that he somehow escapes the quantum realm by finding a time. He thinks he's back in the regular world, but instead he's in a world where the snap had already happened. Some years had gone by. The Avengers had disbanded. Tony and Cap never made up. They just gave up, which again seems a bit uncharacteristic, but I don't know. And then maybe Scott can go visit his daughter. She's grown up, and she could look at him and be like, where the hell have you been for the past few years? Like, he's like, but I was just in the quantum realm for like 5 minutes. You know what I mean? Because remember, Janet talks about time and how in the quantum realm, time space does not flow the same way.
She ages in the quantum realm, though, is the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true, but doesn't mean there aren't portals where you can come out of it at different timelines. And I still do believe that that's how they're going to incorporate time travel into Avengers 4 and other MCU movies. It's going to be tied to the quantum realm. Like, in other words, if someone creates a time machine, it'll be through the quantum realm.
Yeah, and it's also because, like, we've seen set photos of them, like, going back to the first Avengers, going back to, like, all these other movies and stuff. Like, that is a thing that we have seen. I don't know, man. Maybe he'll just come out of the quantum zone. They're going to fight Thanos again, and then all of a sudden he just bursts from the inside of Thanos, and he's like, yeah! Like,
I don't think they're going to do that, but...
that whole thing with him going up Thanos' butt and just expanding.
Right. That sounds like something you would like. Go on, what do you think?
Fuck you.
I mean, for me, again, since I haven't really read much of the comics, the only thing that I can say is that I just really want to see. For me, I just want to see how the dynamic is with him and Cassie, since he's going to be gone for so long. That's all I can really say.
Yeah, as far as we know, he's going to be gone for a while.
And that's what I'm saying. It's going to be a while for the rest of the world, but not for him. So I could totally see, like, the first few minutes of Avengers 4.
He could get quantum powers too. Who knows?
That's true. Who knows? He's definitely in there. And it's dangerous to be in there. I mean, the first few minutes of Avengers 4 could be him coming out of the quantum realm, and it's the future after the snap. Time has passed. Thanos is who knows where, somewhere else. Who knows? He's somewhere else in the universe, not on Earth. And he comes out of it trying to get answers, and eventually it leads him to Tony. And he could be like, what the hell's going on, this and that. And then that could eventually lead to Tony talking to Bruce Banner and being like, yo, if this guy traveled through time, through the quantum realm, could we not use the quantum realm to travel through time and fix all this and go back in time without even needing the time stone, going back in time and stopping Thanos from even getting the stones to begin with? And that could be the story of Avengers 4. And I think a lot of folks are predicting that. I think that's the safe prediction.
But if it does turn out like what we were saying with, like, the quantum technology and, like, Captain Marvel and all that, if it does turn out that, like, the quantum realm plays into her powers, it could be something with, like, her coming to Earth, like, and her using her powers there somehow releases him because they're within the vicinity of each other or something. Unlikely, right? But, like, it's possible. It's a comic book movie. They could do anything they want, and it would still somehow make sense.
I mean, then the question that I'm asking, and again, we're going to get answered in Captain Marvel, is where has Captain Marvel been all these years? Like, he's, we see Nick Fury at the end of Avengers dropping that little communicator, and I'm just wondering, like, why didn't they call her up for New York invasion from the first Avengers movie? Why didn't they call her up for
licensing?
What happened in Age of Ultron? No, come on. There has to be a real reason, like, in universe, why they haven't done
other than licensing.
Maybe they'll do something with the Kree Revolution, because you have to remember that in Guardians of the Galaxy, the first one, they talk about how Ronan's kind of like a rebel and, like, kind of off on his own and doing stuff he's not supposed to be. It could be she's helping deal with that or something. And then when he dies, like, she's finally free to do whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we'll find out.
Like a code, like a code red situation. Like, if it's truly, like, the end of the world, like, if there truly is no chance, then you call in Captain Marvel. Like, I bet you if the Avengers had lost the fight, he would have called Captain Marvel. Like, if they had lost the fight against Loki and his army, Captain Marvel would have been brought back.
Then why the hell didn't they use her to begin with to just win, save time? That sounds dumb, bro.
Why wait? Why wait the last second?
Yeah, why wait till the last second? There has to be a reason. They have to figure out a way to write her out to where it makes sense.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. Overall, though, I mean, like, did the mid-credit scene shock you? Because
no.
I wasn't shocked. I expected it, but I thought it was cool the way they kind of panned out and you see, like, the dust, and it was like, oh, boy.
I was shocked just a little bit, though. Even though I did watch Infinity War, I was shocked a little bit because I didn't really see them all dying coming like that. Maybe, like, one or two, but all three of them. And he's like, hey, can you guys pick me up? And he's just there now.
I'm excited for Avengers 4, honestly.
I do want to say something, though, involving, like, since we saw the deaths of those characters at the end. Deaths in the movie, in general, I thought they were going to kill Janet. Because, like, that scene where they crash the quantum ship into Ghost, and Ghost is like nowhere to be seen, and Janet has like her back to it, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, you're back!" I was just waiting for Ghost to come out of nowhere and just like stab her and steal her energy or something. Like I was literally sitting there waiting for it to happen, but they subverted my expectations. You know, I'm glad they didn't do it. Like they subverted my expectations completely with that, and I'm glad they didn't do it.
Said they healed her.
Well, the reason why I didn't think they were going to do that, and this is the problem covering news and following this stuff, is that you know too much. And that sucks, but. And I think I remember reading, and no, I know I remember reading. I'm not even. I know I remember reading that they're going to do that Michael Douglas and Michelle Pfeiffer are both in the cast for Avengers 4. Now I don't think they're going to be major characters, but they're both in that cast. So it's like when you read that, you kind of know that they're not just going to kill her off like that. You know what I mean? Now one thing I did hear is there's been talk of them eventually doing. If they do a third Ant Man movie, it's going to be about Hank Pym as far as it being a prequel, like the Hank Pym story. And then we can see Goliath. See, if they do that, then we can see Goliath. We can actually see the scene that, remember how there's that scene with Bill Foster and Scott? And he's like, oh, how big is you?
Oh, they're comparing, they compare.
Yeah, that might be something we see in Ant-Man 3, which could be a prequel to this Ant-Man. I'd be okay with that. If they do another Ant-Man movie and instead they have Michael Douglas as the main character with that reverse technology shit, they could do that.
Which they're getting better with, so.
Oh, yeah, but I mean, I can't even imagine doing a whole movie like that, though.
Yeah.
That's going to be a bitch. Yeah, I don't know. So, overall, is this a top 5 or top 10 MCU movie?
Not top 5.
I'd say yeah for me.
Not top 5 for me.
Okay, what's your top 5 right now?
My top 5 right now, oh god. Iron Man, Winter Soldier, Infinity War, Ragnarok, and Black Panther probably.
Not Civil War?
I actually don't like Civil War that much.
I love Civil War. That's my favorite. That's my number 1.
You're
an idiot.
I talked with some friends about this a while ago, and I ranked Civil War near it was mid-tier on my list. Like, it was not a movie that was in my top 5 or even top 10. Like, I enjoy watching it, but I don't like it that... Like, it's one of those things where I'm like, I'll sit down and I'll watch it, but I don't totally enjoy it. I think it has a lot of problems. At least for me, anyways.
I love it. What about you, Gohan? Where would you rank this film among the other MCU?
I'm going to be honest. Since I haven't really seen a lot, and I've been watching a lot recently, trying to catch up with everybody else, I'd say this is Ant Man and the Wasp. I'd say it's top 3 for me.
Wait, have you not seen all the MCU movies?
I haven't seen Deadpool 2. So I
That's not MCU. Why the fuck are you on this podcast if you think that Deadpool's MCU?
Get out of here.
You asked me to be on this podcast, and you're ending it now by thinking that Deadpool...
Well, mistakes aside, I still do believe
people are gonna listen to this and be like, "Why'd you have this guy on?"
But if you're wondering, though,
I don't give a fuck about them, dude.
I ranked Civil War as 13 before Ant Man and Infinity War came out. When I did my list, I put Civil War as number 13.
So you're telling me there's 12? I disagree with you on that one, bro. Civil War is my number 1. Infinity War is my number 2. And then it gets kind of weird because, like, I like Iron Man 1, but I don't know if it's the top level of like, I think it was, but there's a lot of good movies that have come out. I think you're right. Ragnarok is amazing.
Like I said, Iron Man's my number 1.
Winter Soldier is great. Guardians of the Galaxy 1 is another good one. Oh, and Avengers 1. Avengers 1 I think is climbing up for me. I think Avengers 1's probably my number 3. I think it'll be Civil War, Infinity War, Avengers 1. And then maybe Ant Man and Wasp, right? I'd say they're right around there, but I'm not really sure because I think Winter Soldier might actually be higher. You know, either way, I mean, I like Ragnarok too. So, I mean, what can you do? Anyways, that's it for the Geekdom101 podcast. Thank you guys for being here. And we look forward to seeing what they do in the future of the MCU. I'm sure we'll cover a lot more of this stuff as the years, as the rest of the time goes by. We have no more MCU movies coming out for the rest of the year. The next one's going to be Captain Marvel next year. And then 2 months after that is Avengers. It's going to be interesting because, you know, Captain Marvel comes out in March, Avengers in May. So when Avengers comes out...
That's so odd.
I know, that's what I'm saying. Captain Marvel will be in theaters still when Avengers comes out. So it's going to be interesting it's going to...
Sorry.
No, I was saying it's interesting. I mean, remember, Black Panther, I don't know about you, but the big metro theaters down here where I live in Florida still have some showing. Like, you get one showing a week of Black Panther.
Wow.
They were showing Black Panther weeks into when Avengers was out.
The interesting thing that I've noticed, like, recently is that we're getting a lot more, like, summer blockbuster type movies in different parts of just the year. Like, Aquaman's coming out in December. Like, that should be a summer movie. Bumblebee's coming out in December. That should be a summer movie. Like, Captain Marvel's coming out in March.
It's because there's no Star Wars here, so capital. Right?
Well, yeah, but you get what I mean. Like, what would normally be summertime movies are coming out in just the back end. Yeah, in the ends of the year.
And you know what's weird about that is, I'm pretty sure James Wan said he's done with Aquaman. I could be wrong. I mean, it might be in production, but I think he finished that movie a while back.
You know, they completed it. They were putting the finishing touches on some of the stuff for the trailer just a couple days ago, but they're pretty much done. Like, that movie's completely shot. It is done. It is in post-production.
No, but I'm saying the movie was done before Justice League came out, bro. They had that movie finished before Justice League came out.
I kind of believe that.
That's what I'm saying, that it's been shot such a long time ago. But I think that's what it is. I think that this December there's no Star Wars. And this is the first December we haven't had a Star Wars movie in 3 years. So that might be what it is. And I'll be honest, I think they should have probably moved Han Solo to December just because it would have given them more time to get over the Last Jedi backlash.
When did Rogue One come out?
December.
Huh.
Of 2016. 2015, 2016, 2017. They were all December Star Wars movies.
Yeah, you're right.
All right, doing a quick cut in because the audio did mess up at the very end. All I pretty much said was, thanks for listening and have a nice day. So, thanks for listening and have a nice day. See you next week.